All right, welcome to the next training for the LLP system. And today we're going to cover adding a contact record and going through some of the custom fields we built. What I thought we'd do is I'm going to go ahead and delete this Joe test, and we're just going to start from scratch on adding a new contact record. So again, when we're adding a new contact record, you've got 3 different places you can do this, or 4 actually. You've got up here, you've got in the contact record part, and then you've got down here at the bottom of the speed bar. So when you do this, it opens up a mini screen where we can add some of the basic information. Now, one of the things that I recommend is when you're talking to a client for purposes of speed, I don't know that you want to go through all the different fields here and enter all the data. So what I typically do is go ahead and put their name in here. I put their DEAR, because that's a mandatory field. I'm going to put how they were referred to us. And down as a realtor. I won't even put that, and I'll put that they're a client, okay? Now, as I put in these minimal fields to start this, when I go okay, it's going to create the contact record. And again, what it's going to do is once it creates this contact record, since I'm the person entering the data, it's automatically going to add me as the loan officer. It's automatically going to put a PQ date in here. Now, if you're adding people that are not clients to the database, you may want to come back in here and take out the PQ date, okay? Just so it doesn't pull up in your PQ reports and things like that. So basically, that's how we get started. Does anybody have a question on that? All right. All right, so a couple different things. As you add a person to the database, typically you're going to get a phone call or get their information. They're going to call you, or your realtor's going to call you. But when you set up this contact record, there's a couple different ways you can go about doing a pre-qualification. What we've done is we've set up some custom screens in here to help you with that, as well as some other tools to either drive them to your website or do it over the phone, or if you want to do it in person. But what we have here is below the top part of the screen, we have the custom tabs that have all been built out to help you with this. Now, the first tab, as you'll see here, is the Fields tab. One of the features of the Fields tab is if you go anywhere down into the body and you right-click, you'll see all the custom field or tabs that have been built for you to help you with your daily business. All right. In addition to right-clicking in the Fields tab, you can also scroll over here to the right and go to the same tabs, although sometimes it's a little bit cumbersome to do it that way. What I recommend that you do is start over here in the Fields tab, and really you're probably going to be using the first 4 or 5 tabs, and that's really going to be about it. So as you right-click in the Fields tab, and again, going back to the idea about the electronic notepad, we've created 4 tabs that are geared to do your pre-qualification process. We've got the Pre-Qual 1 tab, we've got the Pre-Qual 2, 3, and 4 tabs, okay? It's almost like a mini application, and it's kind of up to you as to how you want to utilize this. The PQ1 tab is probably one of the most important tabs that we have to gather some information that is not necessarily going to be on a 1003 or part of any formal loan process, but it really sets you up on what's going to happen in the process. Let's just go through some of the fields in the PQ1 tab. As you start up top, it starts off with your PQ date. PQ assistant, this is if you're working on a team and your assistant or you may want to track who's doing the pre-qual on the person or who's adding it. So we'll just put my name in here. This is how you're doing the pre-qualification. Are you doing it on the web? Are they doing it over the phone? And actually, this field here will drive some of the outbound messages that go out after you've done your pre-qualification. So, for example, if you did the pre-qual in person or over the phone, and let's say this person is good to go after this meeting, the first email message that they're going to get is an invitation to visit the website. Now, if they did the web app initially when they did their pre-qual and you called them over the phone, the first email they're going to get is going to be a congratulations for working with you, not an invitation to the website since they've already been there. So there's some dynamics built into the system that kind of make it intelligent, but it's only as good as the information you put in here, okay? And where this is driven from, sometimes some of our referral partners send these people directly to our website, and when we're creating the contact record, I'm going to come in here and put web app phone, okay? Because that means I'm going to view their web app, and then I'm going to call them over the phone and review that information with them, okay? Transaction type, this just lets us know what they're trying to do. Is it a purchase, owner-occupied? Is it a second home? Is it a refi? What kind of transaction is it? We'll just call this a purchase, owner-occupied. Now, the next field is selling agent. Typically, most of my business is driven from my realtor partners, but if you notice up here, I've got referral name and referral type is down at Tidwell, but it didn't put her name down here. And the reason why is many times we'll have a referral name as a realtor, and guess what? They drop that realtor and they go to somebody else. So we kind of customize this to track this, because many times as they drop this realtor, they might decide to work with somebody else. So what you'd have to do is come in here then too and just type the name, and in the database it will find Donna's information. And then if you look over here in the contacts tab that we viewed the other day, you'll see that it already went ahead and put all of our information in there. So this buyer's agent field is the same field that's in the PQ1 tab, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, now if you're dealing with builder business, this is where it gets really cool for you in managing some builder accounts, and that you can actually put the builder's name in here, and then you can even sort it by subdivision or condominium development, depending on how you're doing that part of the business. And there's actually reports built into the system that if you're working with a builder and they have multiple subdivisions, you can pull up the business and the pre-quals you're doing with that builder as a status report of all the people you pulled up. You don't have to keep it on a piece of paper and manually do that. The system will do that for you. Okay. Now, as we look down here, these are some of the basic questions just to get started off with a pre-qual that I don't think a residential loan application has on it. The first question is will there be anybody else applying for the mortgage with you? Well, if they say a yes, well, you come back up here and you say, you know, what's that person's name? Who are they? And so you just plug it in here. Now, the next question is, are they a first-time home buyer? You know, this is just a basic question. You want to see what their level of experience is at this point. And, you know, it's all field-driven where you can come in here and you can either choose one of these, or you can also just put a Y and it'll automatically put a yes there, okay? The next question, and we've had mixed reactions from new people here on this question, is have you had an opportunity to speak to any mortgage lenders yet? And we've got a yes or a no there. Let's say they have, and I always ask the next question, well, who have you talked to? You know, I want to know who my competition is up front, and I kind of want to test what they're going to be telling me. Interesting thing here is I've had some people that tell me no, they haven't spoken to a lender, and guess what? When I pull the credit report and I look at the inquiries, I know if they've not been upfront or truthful with me at that point. So it's kind of something that is, I think, pretty good up front, and it also helps you gauge the conversation with what you're going to do. Next question is how soon are you going to buy? And we've got some built-in fields. These are the most typical answers that we get. And so you just choose one of these. Have you looked at any homes yet? Yes or no? You know, this is more of a conversation piece where you're kind of breaking the client down at this point, where you're building a level of trust with them, because at this point you have not asked anything about where they work, what their income is. So you're kind of starting to build that relationship with them. Next question is, where are you searching? You know, always a good question, another conversation piece, because at this point they're starting to get excited about the conversation and tell you the things that they like and where they want to live and what school district they want to be in. After that, we go into what price point are you looking at, where you can just put the price point in here.
Joe.
Yes.
I was going to say to Randy and Robert both that I saw you do this last week with one of my clients, and it not only broke down the client, it really disarmed them on every level, and it really built that personal connection with them that I never really seen anything like it, but I saw exactly how this worked, what you just said. I just wanted to reiterate that.
Thanks, Philip.
Cool.
Next thing we want to go into is asking about property type. You know, are they looking at condos? Are they looking at townhouses? Are they looking at detached resale homes, duplexes? What kind of properties are they looking at? Okay. Also, you know, again, these are all conversation pieces where you're building that relationship with them. Next thing is, you know, do they currently own or do they rent? If you put here that they own their house or live rent free, you could see we've got a bunch of different responses here that are pretty much everything that they could tell you. So let's just say that they're let's just say they're renting, or let's say they're owning. It's a little bit easier. And let's just say they're we'll go there. Now the next question is, how long have they been there? Let's just say they've been there 2 years. If they're renting, we want to put the amount. And here's a good question that I've never seen on a 1003 yet is, how do they pay their rent? This is always something that comes back to haunt some loan officers, in that they get the loan app in and all of a sudden everyone finds out that they're paying cash and we can't document the rent. But if you're asking this question up front, this could be one of your moments of coaching where you say, hey, stop paying with cash, start paying by check or money order so that we can document your rent, okay? But you've got a bunch of different options here as to how they could pay. And again, these are all been given to us over the years that we've kind of built a database of the typical responses. If they own, this is where you put the payment amount. Let's just say it's $1,000. Let's just say that they're going to hold on to the property. They're not going to rent it. And let's say, you know, the type of property they live in is a single family residence. You know, we're going to ask them how much you think the house is worth. Let's just say they think the house is worth $120,000. How much do they owe? They owe $100,000. And then also we want to ask up front what type of mortgage they have. You know, do they know? Is it a conventional? Is it an FHA? We've seen a lot of loan officers get bit in the last 2 years where they haven't really asked this question, nor do they look at the credit report. And meanwhile, they qualified them for an FHA loan and they already have an FHA loan on their existing house. So just something you want to ask up front. We also want to ask them if they are selling their house, or if they visited with their realtor, how much they think if they're going to sell their house, they're going to net out of the sale, or if they're going to rent out their house, how much they're going to rent out their house for on a monthly basis, and see how that comes into play. The next question is probably one of the most important questions you can ask your client, and this really sets the tone of the conversation, is how much of a monthly payment do they want to have? And let's just say that they want to have a payment for $800 a month. Well, in looking at some of the information we have here, I'm thinking to myself, if they're paying $1,000 and they're not comfortable, or they want to lower the budget, and they're looking at a $200,000 house, I'm thinking unless they got a big down payment, we're probably going to be in trouble on this one, okay? Or we're going to have some special dialogue that covers the difference and how they can afford that. But as you can see, by asking some of these questions, it really sets the tone for the rest of the conversation. If you notice here too, the color of this data point is all red, and the next one is all red too, where I'm going to ask them how long do they anticipate to being in the house. This is probably the next biggest driver of what kind of loan I'm going to recommend to them, where if they're going to be there 5 to 10 years or 3 to 5 years or whatever the typical response is going to be. But these two fields here, this $800 field and this 5 to 10 years field, actually these fields go out on the pre-qualification notice to your real estate agent to give them that information. If these fields are not filled in, the system will not deliver that pre-qualification notice and you'll get an error message. And we'll talk about some of the notices in the future, but this is just some of the basic information that we made mandatory, okay? The next question is, how long do they expect to be in the house, or to keep the loan rather? And, we're just looking here that, are they coming into some money? Are they planning to do something different? Again, this is going to drive what type of loan you might recommend as well. And the last question is, and this is just a conversation piece, are they familiar with how the tax advantages of a mortgage work? We don't really see most lenders asking that question, and you'd be surprised at how many times I ask that question, and even an experienced homeowner doesn't understand it because their tax preparer does their income taxes. So just a couple good points here on the Pre-Qual 1 screen. Any questions on this?
No.
It's all pretty basic. Anybody have any feedback or other questions that would kind of be cool to ask up front? I'm going to take that as a no. Well, if you do, the cool thing about our culture here is we're always open to changes and doing things better. So as you work in the system, if you find yourself doing things that seem to be working for you, I ask that you share that with the rest of the group. So with that, I'm going to conclude going over the Pre-Qual 1 screen, and then we're going to pick up on the Pre-Qual 2 screen next. Thank you.